Hey guys, what's up? It's Kimmy Searches, and today we're going to talk about the books that I read in January because you're super interested. I already know. So let's just get right into it, I guess. The first book I read is called Less by Andrew Sean Greer. This book is about a failed author who is approaching his 50th birthday. And if his midlife crisis that's going on isn't enough, his younger lover tells him they have to stop seeing each other because he's getting married. And by the way, Arthur, you're invited to the wedding. Well, Arthur can't go to the wedding because that would be super awkward. But he also can't not go without a fantastic reason because everyone would think he's like sitting at home moping, which he probably would be. So instead, he decides to accept a bunch of invitations he's got for events around the world. So that's everything from a temporary professor position in Germany to a friend's birthday party in Morocco. And he goes on this world tour adventure to try to get over things and figure out where he fits in the world and how to cope with being 50 and gay. And it's a pretty funny book. I really liked the humor in it. I gave this one 3 stars, and I liked it for the humor. Arthur's kind of a funny character. Life happens to him. He doesn't really go out and grab anything he wants. Things just happen to him. And he kind of seems like he's bumbling along throughout the whole story. Like, he just seems perpetually confused about everything. And I think that's pretty funny. But it also makes it pretty cute, and it's meaningful still. I don't really know how this is to the middle-aged gay community, if it's actually as meaningful as I think it would be if I were in that position, but I don't know. I'm not a middle-aged gay man, so I don't really know. But I still thought it was good. It was cute. I think that's worth a shot if you want something like that, or if you're in that community and think that maybe you need something geared towards you specifically. I think this would be a good one to at least try. A lot of people were really divided about this book. There were the people that loved it and think it's fantastic and cute and meaningful and has a lot of depth, and the other side of it thinks that this book is super boring and they just don't get it at all. And I can see both sides of that argument. It is kind of a slow book. It's introspective, but not in the way that you would think. Arthur doesn't do a lot of the thinking about things and introspection at all. He just kind of goes along, and the narrator, who is not Arthur, I can't remember if it's third person or if it's somebody else, they kind of do all of the thinking for him, really. They talk about the things that he's feeling and the conclusions he's probably coming to, but we don't really know because we can't really see directly into Arthur's mind. So I could see why it would be kind of boring. Arthur might seem pretty static. He doesn't actually feel like he's learned lots and lots of life lessons by the end, but I still think it's pretty good. Another issue I kind of had with it is that everyone seems to really like Arthur. Like, he has one enemy, and that's it. And I kind of wish there were just more. I don't mind that a lot of people like him. I just wish there were more people who didn't love him. I wish there was more people who were just like, yeah, I don't know who that guy is. It's Arthur, I guess. But it kind of seems like they either love him or they don't like him at all. So I wish there was more in between with that. I think it would give his character a little more depth. So yeah, if you're looking for that kind of book, if you're looking for a dramatic introspection with some humor in it, this is a great book for you. If you're looking for a wild, around-the-world adventure, kind of like Around the World in 80 Days, you're not going to like this one. Don't do this one. So, that's Less. It was pretty good. 3 stars. There's that. The second book that I read in January was Goblin Attack from the Spiderwick Chronicles by Tony DiTerlizzi. I'm sorry, I'm so bad at pronouncing names. I really need to work on that. But this book was a super short little book. When I was a kid, I always wanted to read the Spiderwick series, but I didn't have them, and for some reason I didn't look for them at the library. So, you know, as an adult, I thought I'd give them a try. But I wanted to buy this super cheap one. This was like maybe $1 for this tiny itty bitty book. It's like 68 pages. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to spend, you know, like 20 bucks or something on the little hardcover Spiderwick series. So I just bought this little one to give it a try, see how I like the characters and the setting, and I did like it. I gave this one 3 stars because it was too short to really find out what it's like. If you don't know what it's about, it's the 3 kids from the Spiderwick Chronicles, their siblings, and they find a magic book in an attic, but it's super valuable, and invisible goblins try to start attacking them to get the book from them, and they have to fight them off. So that's what this one is about. I'm not really sure what the regular series is about. Maybe I'll find out someday, but that's what this one is about. And it tells you a little bit at the very beginning about the regular series in like a poem form, and it's pretty cute. I like that. This seemed like a cute series. It reminds me a lot of Series of Unfortunate Events. So if you like that series, you'll like this one. It reminds me of that with like a hint of Narnia style magic elements in it. And I thought it was really cute. I would probably read some of the other ones. Maybe I'll just buy 1 or 2 just to see how I like the main series, because this one was way too short to actually get a real taste of what the characters and the story are like, you know. This one really seemed like one of those books where they just want kids to buy more stuff because it says Spiderwick on it. So that's why I gave this one 3 stars. I didn't really like it for that because it seemed very much like over the top, cheesy kind of, they just wanted something else to slap the Spiderwick name on so kids will buy it. But I think the main story is probably super cute, and I'll probably give it a try someday, but for now, this one has got 3 stars. So there's that. The third book that I read in January was To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This one was sort of suggested by my cousin. She asked me if I watched the show, and so I just bought the book instead, and we never talked about it again, but here I am to talk about it. Anyway, this book is about a teenage girl named Laura Jean who writes love letters instead of a diary. She writes them all out to the boys she has crushes on. She puts them in an envelope, gets them all ready to send, and then puts them in a trunk in her closet. Which, you already know where this is going, because it's kind of predictable. They somehow get sent out, including the one to her sister's very recently dumped ex-boyfriend, and she's got to figure out what to do about it, who's got the letters, who didn't get them, how they got sent out, what to do about it now that all these boys know that she liked them, because they're not dated, so it's just, it seems almost like a current thing, some of them. And I gave this one 3 stars. It's really funny. I like the concept. That seems so hilarious to me, and the teenagers in this are pretty realistic. Like, the things that they do are just funny, and I could see myself doing them as a teen. Like, now that I'm away from that, an adult, I can look back on it and be like, oh my gosh, that's gonna come back to bite you. I can already see it. But I would have done the same thing as a kid, so I think this is pretty funny. It's pretty realistic. It was really entertaining. I read the entire thing in a day, and I didn't like it because it was very cliche. There were a lot of tropes in it. It wasn't what I wanted it to be, really, but I still read the entire thing in a day. Like I said, it was still a page turner for me, and I still thought it was funny. It did make me roll my eyes a bit, so if you're not into high school as a setting or teen drama, then like you're not going to want to read this book at all. But if you like that kind of stuff, if you like the dramatic, romantic, teenage, cliche stories, you're going to love this book. It is pretty funny. There's a lot of humor in it, and there's a lot of drama, I guess. And it's really nice because it's about sisters. Like I said, one of the boys that gets a letter is close to her sister, and it's about the sisters overcoming things and working together, and it's really nice. And the main family, Lara Jean and her family, are Korean, so I thought that was a nice touch. You don't get to see that very often, so I did like that. I just feel like this story wasn't as fleshed out as it could be. I was really hoping the story would be like, I think it's 5 letters get sent out, so I was really hoping it would be like 4 boys decide that they are in love with her after getting her letters, and the one boy she really likes isn't, and she would have to like go try to figure out how to like fight off these boys who are in love with her. But that's not how it goes. It kind of feels like they cut some corners with this one, so I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I still thought it was cute. I still thought it was good. It's worth a read if you're just looking for something really light. I think it's good. It's also a series. It's part of a trilogy. There's 2 other books. I haven't read those yet. I'm not sure if I will read them, but we'll see. I thought this one was pretty entertaining. It's also a show on Netflix if you want to watch that instead of read it. So, there's that. So the next book that I read in January was Doña Flor and Her 2 Husbands by Jorge Amado. This book was pretty good. It was about a woman named Doña Flor who marries this rascal, to put it extremely lightly. He has a gambling problem, an alcohol problem. He's unfaithful to her. He's okay with taking her hard-earned money from her to gamble. And he's kind of just a bad guy, but he's really well liked. He's generous with his friends, and he really does love his wife, even though he treats her horribly. But he's kind of a bad person, and he tragically dies at a young age, and Doña Flor gets married again to another man who is the exact opposite of her first husband. He is a well-respected physician. He is an upstanding citizen. He's in a music club. He doesn't believe in gambling. He doesn't drink very often, and he doesn't really get drunk. And, you know, he's the perfect husband. Everyone thinks that Doña Flor is going to be so much happier now that her husband is such a kind and respectable man. And it's true. Doña Flor is very happy with him. But she misses the kind of excitement from the first husband. She misses his rascally behavior and the fact that she never knew what was going to happen with him. And she ends up missing him so much that she brings his spirit back. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because it's just funny. He brings a lot of chaos back into her life. And it's funny. It's cute, kind of. It's pretty long, though. I gave this one 3 stars as well. But I gave it 3 stars. Let's start with what I like. I like that it's a pretty cute story. It's entertaining. I haven't really seen anything like this before. It's kind of like a paranormal romance novel, but without any of the edge. You know, like, when you think paranormal romance, you think Twilight, you think Vampire Diaries, the ones where it's very much like, I'm a monster, you can't love me. This one's not like that. Like, the fact that he's a ghost is kind of secondary to the story. The issue is not that he is a ghost, it's that she's married to another man. She doesn't care that he's a ghost, and that kind of the only issues that it brings about is that no one can see him unless he wants them to. So it just adds to the humor of the story. There's no like dramatic edge to it. The drama is all in the relationships, which is good if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for a good romantic story, this is it. And by romance, I mean like romance. It's kind of a romance novel. There's a lot of bedroom talk in it. Nothing too explicit, but the concepts are there pretty predominantly. I didn't think it would be like that, but I don't know why I didn't. It's pretty clear. I just like completely spaced and overlooked that, which was a fun surprise. But the reasons I didn't like this book was that it was pretty long. There were a lot of really wordy scenes in it. For example, there's a whole chapter about how somebody wrote a poem about her first husband, and everyone thought it was pretty spot on, but nobody knew who wrote it. And so the entire chapter is like trying to figure out who wrote this poem, and they list all these names of people who could have written it, and then it just, explores why they could or could not have written it, and then it all ends up being kind of pointless. And I know it's meant to show you more of the character and kind of set the scene and tell you more about the town they're in and the characters and how everyone feels about them, but I think that could have been done in like a page or two. I think that was a little too much for this because it ended up making it confusing later. I was trying to figure out if this person that was introduced was from that scene and they weren't, or they just didn't end up being as important as it was, and it made it a little confusing. So I didn't like that as much. There also is a small amount of magic in this book. There's a lot about voodoo, but it seems kind of back burner. Like, I wish they had talked more about that. Like, it would have been the perfect amount if the rest of the story was shorter, but the rest of the story is really drawn out, so I wish the magic had been drawn out a little more. I would rather have read an extra 100 pages and made this like a 700 or 800 page book if I got to see more of the voodoo magic in it, because it seems really low-key and back burner compared to the rest of it. So that was interesting, but I kind of didn't think there was enough of that, and there's too much of other stuff that I didn't think mattered as much. Maybe I'm biased, maybe that's just like my interest is in one thing and not another, but that's what I think about it. It's also just super long and drawn out. I mean, the ghost doesn't even make an appearance until page 480, which is about here. So you get this much with the ghost and this much without it. It's really long. But if you're really interested in a lengthy romance novel, get this one. You're gonna like it. If you're looking for just like a fun ghost story, this one's gonna be really long and drawn out and you might not like it. So there's that one. I still liked it. 3 stars. It was pretty decent. There's that. So the next book that I read in January is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. And I don't have that one with me, so I'll just like put a picture of it right here. This book was really good. I gave it 4 stars. My first 4 stars of the year, I think. This book is about a psychiatric ward. It's narrated by a man named Chief who pretends to be deaf and mute, and it's about him living his life in the psychiatric ward. He leads a really monotonous, boring life until a new patient is introduced named McMurphy. And McMurphy took the psychiatric ward over jail time, and he just brings utter chaos. He's into gambling, he likes drinking and women outside of the ward, and so he tries to bring all of that in to the ward, and he tries to just rattle things up. And the head nurse, named Big Nurse in the story, is really butting heads with him. She wants to control him and have order, and he really just wants to shake her and the entire ward up. So it's about them battling it out, and Chief just kind of sitting back and watching all of this happen. And it's really good. It's humorous, but it's also really deep and moving, and there's so many layers to it. And the thing that I really, really liked about this book is that you can analyze this 100 different ways. You can look at all these different things that could be kind of symbolism, or you can just read it for the story. You don't have to, a lot of stories that you see with symbolism and that try to have a lot of meaning to them end up being kind of bogged down by that, and you can't just read it for the story. You have to look into it to get anything out of it. This one you can just read for the story, and you don't have to look into it if you don't want to, and it's just well done. It doesn't feel like you're pressured to read into every little thing. It's really nice. I really like that. I will say there's a trigger warning for it. That's the only thing that I really had an issue with in this book. Well, that's one of the things. It's got a major trigger warning for self-harm, suicide, abuse, gore, and I think that's it, but that kind of thing. So if you're not comfortable with that, don't read this book, please. If you're not into tragedy, don't read this book. You're not gonna like it. It's just gonna make you really upset. But if you're okay with those things and you really want a deep insight into humanity and the concept of sanity, this is a great book. It's so good. I really liked it. I kind of only picked it up because it's a classic, and I'm not sure I would read anything else like that. You know, the books that I rate 5 stars are the ones that, if somebody told me this book is even closely similar to the one I gave 5 stars, I'll pick it up and read it, no questions asked. If I see another book by the same author, I'll just pick it up and read it, no questions asked. The book that I rate 4 stars are ones that I really, really liked, but I would be hesitant to pick up other books like that one. I'd probably read the back cover, you know, do a little digging about it before I actually took the time to read it. So that's the only reason I gave this one 4 stars, is because I wouldn't just immediately pick up anything else by Ken Kesey. I would probably just like read the back cover and see what it's really about. But otherwise, this book is so good. It's got so much meaning to it. It's so tragic, but still like almost uplifting for parts of it, and it's just really well done. I really like the way this one is written and the way the story lines out, and I think it's based on Ken Kesey actually worked in a psychiatric ward for a while or something, so he wrote a book based on his experiences there and the feelings he got there. So it's just really well done, and I really liked it, and the way he writes the characters is just so nice, and it's just wonderful. I like that book a lot. So if you're interested in great characters and a deep, meaningful read, I really suggest this one. I think you'll like it. So there's that one. 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. Next book that I read in January was Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. This book was pretty decent. I gave it 3 stars. It's about a gathering of business and diplomatic elites who gather for a birthday party in a fictional South American country, and they end up getting held hostage by a terrorist organization. And this lasts for a really long time, like a couple of months at least. I don't really remember how long it was, but it was a long while. And it's about them living together and kind of creating a new relationship with one another in this hostage situation, and it's pretty good. I don't want to give away too much, and I don't feel like I can say a lot about it. A lot of people that didn't like this book thought it was really slow. It's not like an action-packed terrorist spy novel or anything, so if that's what you're looking for, this is not going to be it. Most of the people that didn't like it thought that it was too slow, that, you know, there was too much of an emphasis on certain things. One of the characters that is taken hostage is an opera singer who is performing for the birthday party, and she captivates everyone with her song, and that's a major part of their day-to-day life, is her practicing. And so they say that when she practices, everyone falls into this hypnotic state while she's singing opera. And a lot of the people that didn't like this book didn't like that. They thought it was slow, and they thought that the opera had too much of an influence on everyone, and I can kind of agree. Opera is really an acquired taste, so to have like almost 60 people trapped in a house and every single one of them is hypnotized by opera is kind of far-fetched. And I feel like opera was like a symbol for music and something just in general that brings people together, but I just think that opera was kind of a weird choice for this because it's really an acquired taste, and there's no way in a room of 60 people not even one of them really hated it. So that was kind of a forced choice, I think. The author says in the back of this book, there's like an interview with her, and she says how much she loves opera, and that's fantastic, but I just think it seems a little far-fetched. It kind of pulls you out of the story and makes you go, what? Why? All of them? Really? Really? So that's kind of, I can kind of agree with that. I still thought it was a good book. The plot was pretty good. I liked it. I liked the fact that it kind of said something about humanity and our relationships to one another and how we can connect to each other no matter where we're from. It was really interesting because the terrorists, are obviously people who are trying to change their country's government and their political system, and they wanted more for the people, and so they were from more impoverished backgrounds, and they wanted to change things so no one had to live like that. And then the hostages were these people who were, at the top of the food chain. So it was really interesting to see them interacting with each other and learning how to live together and how to form relationships with one another, and how they end up all kind of liking each other in the end. And it's just interesting, and I like that. I like the statement that it makes about that. I think it's really good. The only thing I didn't like as far as the storyline was the epilogue, and that was a huge problem for a lot of people. The epilogue kind of just doesn't make sense. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because if you want to read it, you should read it, and I don't want to spoil anything. But it's just random. It kind of doesn't make sense. It kind of doesn't feel cohesive to the rest of the story. It does that thing where it pulls you out, and just instead of feeling like you're right there along with the story and that the things you're reading about are real, you kind of go, well, why would they do that? That doesn't make sense to me. So I think if the epilogue was left out, it would have been perfect, but it just didn't make sense to me. I don't know why they did that. And apparently this book is actually based on a real event in the 90s, 95 or 96, in Peru. The president and some others were actually taken into a hostage situation that was very drawn out. So this is roughly based on that event, but it's obviously fictionalized. And so it's pretty good. I did give it 3 stars. I did enjoy it. I just thought that there were a few things that were kind of forced, kind of not exactly cohesive to the rest of the story. But otherwise, it's a good read. If you're looking for the action-packed story, this is not it. But if you're looking for a good book about humanity and what it says to relate to one another, this is a great book. I think you'll like it a lot. A lot of people love this book. A lot of people think it's in their top 5 favorite books ever. But some people don't. Even certain Anne Patchett fans decided that they hated this book. So it's really up in the air whether or not you think this book is super slow or fantastic. So you might like it, you might not. It's worth a shot, I think. It's worth maybe check out from the library instead of buy it until you get a feel for how much you like it. But here's that one. Pretty good. 3 stars. So the next book, I promise we're almost done. This is the second to last one. The next one I read was The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. This was a movie that came out the late 80s or something, and I loved this movie as a kid. Loved so much that my dad hates this movie. That's how many times I used to watch it. I loved it. And I never got around to reading the book. I don't know why. I knew it was a book for a long time, but I finally and I had been looking for it at bookstores, and I could never find it, so I just bought it online. I picked it up, and it's good. It's 4 stars for me. This book is about the last unicorn who goes in search for the other unicorns or information about what happened to them to make her the last one. And along the way, she runs into all kinds of problems. She gets picked up by a really shady circus. She meets a basically failure of a magician. She runs into bandits, and she ends up picking up their cook as a travel mate. She has to go to the land of the evil king, of course, and she has to live with him. She ends up getting turned into a human for a little while, and she just goes through all these things to find out what happened to the other unicorns. She has to battle another 1 or 2 mythical beasts throughout the book, but it's just really good. It's a really nice fairy tale adventure. If you don't like fairy tales, you're not gonna like this one, but if you love fairy tales and if you loved the movie, I think you'll really like the book. I did. It's a little slow, and it feels really mellow Like, nothing is really pressing, and, you know, the suspenseful scenes aren't really suspenseful, but it's still really good. It's almost satirical. Like, the character flaws are there, and they all know that they're there, and there's a few, like, fourth wall breaks, and it's just really good. I like that. If you're not into that kind of thing, you're not gonna like it, but I personally thought that was really good. I really liked the character flaws because it's meant to be like a parody of a fairy tale. So the characters who have pride as a flaw really have pride as a flaw, and they kind of know it, and everyone else recognizes it, and people say things about it, and I really like that. And for example, the prince in this story, Prince Lear, I don't really like him, but I don't think you're supposed to really. He doesn't recognize the difference between doing heroic acts and being a hero, and I think that's really nice. He's kind of dramatic and a little over the top and a little childish, but I think that makes for a good story. I really enjoyed it. I don't really know what else to say about it except that I think it's a great story, and if you liked the movie, you're gonna love this book. So there's that. I don't know. I don't really know who not to suggest this to. I just think it would be a good read for everyone. I think also if you wanted to write papers about a book, this one is great for analyzing fairy tales and the components of fairy tales. I think it would make a great paper. Also, another one I didn't mention before was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You could definitely write all kinds of papers about that one. So, like, if you're in high school and you need to pick a book and write a paper about it, these two are great. Also, if you're in college, either way, if you're in any kind of school and you need to write a paper, I would say this one or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest would be great. So, there's that. It's helpful if you need it. So finally, the last book that I read in January was The Silent Patient by Alex McEllides. I don't know how to say that. I'm really sorry. This is a fantastic thriller that I got from the Book of the Month subscription service. I gave it 3.5 stars. It's about a woman named Alicia Berenson who is accused of her husband's murder. But after his murder, she doesn't speak for the next 6 years. She only gives any form of communication through one painting that she does, which is a self-portrait. She was a painter, and this is the last painting that she does for years. So people think she's guilty. She is sentenced to a psychiatric ward. Since she won't speak, everyone thinks that she's maybe gone off the rails or something. So they send her to a psychiatric ward, and a man named Theo Faber, who is a psychotherapist, comes and he moves to her hospital because he's obsessed with her case, and he tries to work with her and figure out why she won't speak and what really happened, and he tries to get her to speak. This is a suspenseful thriller, and I love it. Some people thought it was kind of slow in the beginning, but I thought the pacing was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I read like the first 50 pages, and then the next day I read all of the rest of it. I think it was really well done. It's told as Theo Faber narrates most of it, but part of it is through Alicia's diary, and I really like that. I like the dual voice thing. It really gives you like the entire picture, and I really like it. I think the suspense is really, really well done, especially in Alicia's diary. The suspense is just great. I really like it. Of course, there's kind of a twist, and I think that's well done. A lot of people kind of predicted it, and some people didn't like it once they knew what was coming. Like, someone dropped a small leak of some of it, and people thought it wasn't good after that, but I still think it's pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's kind of cheesy, like the whole thing is just a little bit cheesy, but I liked it anyway. I really like murder mysteries, so I thought this one was great. It was kind of like a murder mystery, but you're not really trying to figure out, you know, who did it, because there's only like so many options. You're just trying to figure out why everything happened the way it happened. So I think it's really good. I think the why behind the murder is a little lackluster. I kind of wish there was something more. I wish there was a little bit more depth to it. It just seems kind of not as satisfying as I wanted it to be once you find out. I just kind of don't know about that. I will say there's trigger warnings for this book as well. Suicide, self-harm, gore, I think a little bit. So if you can't handle that kind of thing, if that bothers you, don't read this one. I wouldn't suggest it. If you're okay with it, I think you'll like it. If you like suspenseful, thrilling mysteries, I think you'll like this one too. I certainly did. Some people didn't like it, and I'm really not sure why. I tried to kind of look into it to see what other people thought, and I don't really know why people didn't like it. I thought it was good. So maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. I have some issues and thoughts, and I think I'm gonna just say some spoilers now, so if you don't want to know, stop listening until I put the book down. Once I put it down, I will be wrapping this video up. But for right now, I want to say a few things, and if you know, tell me, I don't know, somewhere, just, or don't, I don't know. I just want to get this out of my mind for the moment. Why does Theo rile up the other characters at the end? He, like, calls them and tells them things that he knows is gonna make them upset, and I don't know why he does it. That just is kind of like left. It's just dropped off the map. Like, they don't ever talk about it again, and I want to know why. Why does that happen? Why does he bother doing that? I don't get it. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a purpose to it. I don't know. The other thing that I really don't understand is why Alicia shows him her diary in the first place. Like, there doesn't seem to be a reason to me. If she knows, she recognizes him, the first meeting they have, why would she give him her diary, like, on the second or third one? I don't get it. Why? I'm not sure. I don't know. These are just thoughts that I'm having. I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe I just needed to get that off my chest and out of there, because it's really bothering me, and I need someone who has read it to talk to me about it. So if you've read it, message me somewhere, because I want to talk about this. I don't know. Okay, hands are free. No more spoilers. One other thing I'd like to add about that book is that the women were a little stereotypical. You didn't have a lot of, like, nuance and depth to them. But anyway, I'm done talking about the books that I read in January. That was all of them. In the future, I'll probably be splitting this up into 2 separate videos if I read as many as I read this month, because this is too long. I don't want to do a video this long in the future, so I'm still rambling. But I hope you liked it. I hope that was at least mildly entertaining for you, as it was satisfying for me to finally get to talk about them. Thank you for watching if you did. Thanks for being here, or something. Anyway, see you next time.